non-all foreign exchange inflows such as remittances, foreign portfolio investments may decline, potentially exerting pressure on the currency. Now, these FCDC's projections are based on critical economic assumptions, including a crude oil price of about $70 per barrel, oil production at 1.4 million barrels per day, gradual policy reforms, and modest foreign direct investments inflows. Well, Dr. Chinyere Amona is the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She joins me this afternoon to continue this conversation, reviewing Nigeria's economic activities for the year 2024. DG, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much, DG. It's good to have you join us this Friday afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Tolu, and good afternoon and Merry Christmas to you and to Nigerians.
Thank you so much. Well, I think I would allow you, let's do a bit of review. The LCCI has been on top of basic economic activities all through the year, reacting to all of it, all of the moves by government bit by bit. But if we are to take some key decisions taken by this government, many would say subsidy removal and, of course, the liberalization of the foreign exchange market has been decisions that many say, yes, has impacted Nigeria's economy. But you're in the business environment. Give us an overview of what you think, or what are those topical issues that you think has shaped the business environment for 2024?
Thank you very much, Tolu. And yes, you're right. 2024 has been turbulent for the Nigerian business environment. Turbulence for various reasons, and we know that a lot of things are happening very quickly too. So you mentioned the removal of fuel subsidy, and because a lot of our expenses, even at the business level, kind of gravitate around petroleum products, things began to escalate. So transport became expensive, other inputs became very pricey. But you also mentioned the liberalization of the forex market, which CBN tried to bring together, or at least tried to harmonize the CBN rate versus the black market rate for forex. Now, these have affected the business community because as that happened, the liberalization happened, the Naira began to depreciate. And I believe that Naira was depreciating because the fundamentals were not right. So yes, it went up from, I think it was about 400 and something, and then today it's about 1,600 and something. But we still see that there is a gap between the forex, the exchange rates per black market, and the official rate. And that difference is more than should be. So we expect that it should cover about 5% or less, but today it's almost 9% difference in the rate. So that still remains a problem. But a bigger problem is the fact that there's volatility. So even in terms of the supply of forex, there's shortage of forex, of course. So that puts a lot of pressure for the business people. While all of this seemed to have happened, we also then had the issue during the year of escalating energy costs. So we had businesses being in trouble with the band A, band B, band this and band that. And with the tariff changing, businesses had to bear huge costs. At the same time as they're bearing the huge costs, they don't even have the power to actually power production. So they had to then augment by providing their own power. So these have affected the cost of output. But CBN and the MPC rates keeps going up. So that means that the ability of businesses to access finance in order to do business or to expand if they wanted to remain curtailed because the interest rate is very high. So that's an additional cost to business. And with inflation constantly rising throughout the year, we see that the purchasing power of the common Nigerians is reduced. So while the manufacturing industrial sector is struggling to produce and put in the marketplace, the populace cannot buy. And so there's a stockpiling of items, but then that doesn't mean that a typical industrialist or manufacturer should crash their prices because the cost of production has become very high. So invariably, we're not competitive in terms of doing business. And on top of all of this, we have had various changes with government policies. And we at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we have constantly said that, look, government needs to give the business community a chance to breathe. You have to have policies and regulations that will allow us to do business. So ease of business has been topical in different ways. And that's because, there has been a lot of regulatory pressures, and sometimes the regulations are changing, and sometimes the regulations are really inhibiting for businesses. So the year 2024 has been turbulent, but you see some businesses have managed to be resilient enough to stand. And for those, I would say, well done to businesses that are still standing. Several businesses have closed down during the year, you are aware. And certain companies have left Nigeria just because they couldn't compete. They couldn't operate in such a difficult terrain. But, well, we're Nigerians and we're here. And amidst all the difficulties, we've had the banding of words between on the fuel prices, between the Dangote refinery, which came on stream within the last couple of months. And we're hoping that with the Dangote refinery being in production, that the cost of fuel will drop. But with the price war between Dangote refinery, NNPC, the marketers, we've had a situation where the price of petrol has remained high and Nigerians are worried. So, we are in December now. It's been a tough year, but we're here and we're still standing, and we're hoping that in 2025, we'll see better days.
Better days, indeed. Measures such as extending import waivers on some critical goods. We've seen that also during the year. I think that was also to address food inflation and all of that. Many analysts have also come out to agree that the security situation is getting better than it used to be. So with regards to food inflation, what is the position at the moment? What are you seeing? What are you hearing with regards to that?
So with regard to food inflation, for me, it's always been, and when I have conversations with my members within the agri sector, the problem has been with security. And I'm happy with the 2025 budget. A lot of funds, have been budgeted for security, and the president actually mentioned that is one of our focal areas, and we hope that will happen. But when you think of agriculture, there are other things apart from security, which is a big thing, because if farmers can't go to farm, then they can't produce. But in addition to that, you had problems with road network, you have problem with transportation costs. So to bring items from the farm to the market remains a challenge. In addition to that challenge of logistics, you also then have the high level of post-harvest losses, because farmers that unable to preserve their produce. They're also unable to process it appropriately. So we just talked about power. Power remains an issue in this sector, because if you don't have the right infrastructure, you don't have power, you're not able to preserve, you're not able to process. And if you're able to process, you then command a premium on your produce. But if you're not able to process, then you're actually just having to deal with the raw produce as it is, and that's not beneficial. Also, within the agri sector, while we think food security, we are also we have the potential in this country to be able to export at various levels. But our export processes is also, they're also very challenged. Now, you talked about waivers, and when we heard about waivers, I think it was on food, some imports, but also on healthcare. We actually issued a release, congratulating government. This was a brilliant idea. It was going to help production costs and all that. But we also had the time lapse between when it was issued and when it actually took effect. It took a long time. So sometimes we have these great policies or guidelines that will help businesses, but then implementation becomes a challenge. So we have to face that gap all the time with government policies. So I don't know. What I'm hearing, I'm not hearing very positive news about insecurity, but with a lot of votes going in that direction, I'm hoping that we'll begin to get it right with security of the farmlands.
Mm. Well, let's take it a step further. You talked about energy prices. Of course, everyone will talk about what has happened in that space this year. But some would also argue that businesses would rather say they want stable power supply than to spend some money on the likes of diesel, which has been on the high, and also fuel, which, well, at the moment we're seeing a bit of reduction in price, but they will still. What sort of measures do you think government can put in place to be able to accommodate large business owners, manufacturers, and all of that, so that as much as they would need to pay tariffs and bills, but at least it won't be as bad as many would say it is, looking at the rates they are paying at the moment? What sort of mechanism do you think can be worked out that will be a win-win for both government and private sector players?
So, the problem with the power sector is really complex.
It is.
I think during the year in May, we kind of peaked at 5,000 megawatts in terms of production, but that also dropped. So we had series of national grid collapsing, which meant that even the national grid itself was archaic, was obsolete. You know, we needed to upgrade in a lot of ways. And so I followed the Minister of Power and some of the things that he was saying about the need to revamp the entire sector. But also the value chain within power. We need to think of how, if you look at the transmission, we need to privatize in a lot of ways. Government is holding on to, so you have the distribution, you have the transmission, but, transmission is kind of in the hold of the transmission companies, in the hold of government. We need to have private sector stepping. If we have private sector stepping in that space, you will find that there'll be better efficiency. Better efficiency and the way things are managed, transparency and governance within the power sector will help. Also with tariff, changes in tariff pricing, there needs to be, government needs to really, make a decision that they want the power sector to work. Today, the per capita consumption in our power is lower than the average in Africa. I think it's about 165 kilowatt per hour. That's kind of compared to where we are as an economic bloc. That's low. So we need to invest in the power sector, but that investment will be more efficient if the private sector is allowed to partner with government to make it work. So today we have, I think the state acts have been, for most of the states are beginning to sign their own electricity act. And hopefully with the subnationals coming on stream, the power generation and power transmission will be a bit more efficient. But I believe that there's a lot that the private sector can support government to do within the power sector if the government allows us.
Interesting. I know a lot of discussions there around the value chain and all that needs to be done, and even taking advantage of other sources of energy supply is what many have talked about. Now, moving on, talking about driving foreign direct investment, it's also something that many have talked about, this administration's drive by the president to attract investment. And you're in the business community again. I'd like to ask you, what sort of conversation should we be having moving forward in 2025 to drive the right foreign investments, which would also help grow our own in-house industries?
Okay, Tolu, just before I answer that directly, to corroborate what you said about renewables, we also then need to really think about how to take advantage of, the natural sources that will have wind, solar. These are things that we can take advantage of. Today, a lot of people are gravitating towards solar, but even getting solar panels, from China or from, Germany, these are expensive coming in. And then when they do come in, you have challenges with even how do you have the right skills to maintain them. So we need to have the right policies to integrate the renewables, the greener and power supply with the traditional. But talking about investment, and this is an area where we can actually attract investment into the power sector, but other sectors of the economy also, we need to attract investment. And one of the ways to attract investment is to have the right environment, regulatory environment that has the right policies to attract investors. Now, some have said that if you look at, I think I was at one forum and we were discussing the issue of foreign direct investment, and somebody did say that any foreign investor looking into Nigeria will see how we treat our domestic investors. And that's an indication of how we treat our foreign investors. And nobody will want to come in if they feel that our domestic investors are not well treated, if they feel that the conditions are not right for investment. So if you think about the companies that are leaving, okay, if you have companies exiting because of the hard investment terrain, or the fact that government policies are not conducive for businesses, or that government policies are not consistent, or they're too volatile, 1 minute they're this, next minute they're that, then surely you can say all the right things, but you're not really demonstrating that you want to attract foreign investors. So we must get our acts right. We must get our house in order to ensure that foreigners who as well looking to invest, anybody who wants to invest will want to make a return. So if your environment isn't such that people will invest and can make sufficient return, then they won't invest. Or if your foreign exchange policies are such that people invest and then they can't take out their funds and they won't invest. So we have to get our regulatory framework right to actually attract foreign investors.
So would you also, finally now before I let you go, many have talked about a rebound for 2025, saying that yes, the positives of some of these policy decisions would be seen. And we've started seeing some figures, even like we talked about, a bit of flexibility even in the foreign exchange market, now hovering between 1,600 naira. And there's been a bit of stability in that space. So do you also see a rebound or a gradual rebound in Nigeria's economy moving on in 2025, despite these challenges?
Yes, I do see a rebound, so I'm optimistic. I remember I granted an interview on the day of the budget presentation, and I did say that cautiously optimistic, because a lot of the things that the president said, they were the right things, but we need to see those things in action. So sometimes we have the right policies put out there, but execution remains a problem. There has to be transparency in the way we execute. Who is responsible for executing? We have to hold people accountable. When execution fails, we need to call them out and hold them accountable. That's what is failing. Because if that doesn't happen, then anybody can do anything, and there are no consequences. That's what I find out. There's no consequences. So people can, act however they like. But we have Nigerians to. I think government needs to work for the nation, for the Nigerian people. Nigerian people are looking up to the government to do a lot of stuff. And, a lot of things have been said. For instance, during the president's media conversation, I know he did say a lot of times how he needs to improve in the power sector, but he did say how. So the how is always where the problem lies. I'm optimistic, and I know that, 2025, things are going to improve. I don't know about 15% inflation, but I believe that inflation will moderate. I don't expect to see such drastic hikes like we had in 2024. MPR, I also don't see a lot of hikes. I think the CBN has tightened enough, and I'm hoping they don't continue to tighten. But if inflation moderates, then the CBN also will, in terms of the monetary policy, it will be a bit more, liberal and, supportive of the private sector. The private sector, the manufacturing sector, the SMEs, we need an opportunity to breathe. And I believe that 2025 provides a lot of opportunity for that to happen. But we're still looking to government for execution. The private sector is ready. We are ready. If we've been resilient this far, we are really ready to take the economy to the next level. But we need government to grant us an enabling regulatory environment to be able to operate.
All right, then I must thank you so much, Dr. Chinramona Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Do enjoy the rest of your day and a Happy New Year in advance.
Happy New Year, Tolu. Bye now.
So let's tell you Asian stocks notch higher today, while the dollar was firm, keeping